Hey guys, so I think a lot of you guys are trying to go viral off of the Toronto doesn't have a sound thing. So I'm not gonna lie, I'm triggered. I think a lot of Toronto people are triggered, a lot of Canadians are triggered, but especially people that are from the province of Ontario and the city of Toronto and the surrounding GTAs like Mississauga, Brampton, Ajax, Pickering, Etobicoke, Scarborough, obviously. Um, I think we're triggered, but a lot of us also have our ups and downs on our opinions and views on Drake. Um, with taking Drake out of it for a second, Toronto always had a sound, right? It always had a sound, and I'm going to obviously have my Twitter in the background here so you can read what I wrote. But a lot of people have opinions on this situation on Twitter, and a lot of people made a lot of good comments, but I did not want to include that in my video because it's not my comments, and I don't want any issues with that like that copywriting in my video and stuff like that. So I didn't put them in here, and I'm not going to put them in here. But when it comes to Toronto's sound, I think it's misunderstood. It's not understood. It's chosen to be not understood. And one mainly has to do with the fact that Canadian music groups and the Canadian music industry doesn't put a lot of energy into Toronto sound. They have Toronto artists, yes, and they manage Toronto artists, and they have them on the roster and things like that, and they push very minuscule until America jumps on, and then they push and they put into it. But I think that if Toronto music groups and record companies and distribution and all of that had put into Toronto music sound from years ago, then I think that Toronto would have an established sound. It still would be influenced by Caribbean culture, but it would have its stamp of approval on the motherfucking map, and it doesn't. So I think that's one of the problems here. I think a lot too is Americans like to gaslight, and I think a lot of people in America are gaslighting themselves, but also trying to gaslight people from Toronto, and it's kind of working. It's kind of not working because too we have an attitude that's called the screwface capital, where we don't give a fuck and we don't even support our own, which is not the case for me, but we don't support our own. So it's kind of like, are you talking to us? Like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we don't care what you think, right? And a lot of us are leaving Drake out here to hang and dry. We cannot say that he's not influenced by the culture and the cultures of the world. I think that's stupid. I think that a lot of artists are influenced by different genres and backgrounds. As they get older, they try different samplings and of music and try to branch out from different music that they did in the past. I think that Drake has done that. Yes, he's fake. Yes, I don't want to say culture vultured, but I think that his fakeness has made it seem like he's culture vultured a lot. Please have this discussion with me down in the comment section. I want to have the discussion, and I want to have it because I think that no one is getting to the root of it. It's a problem that the Canadian record label has made. It's not a problem that us as Canada has made. The people, white, black, and in between, that's not our problem. We don't push to the masses, right? We just live our daily lives, right? So if you have a major problem like that, then you need to take it with the Canadian record label and at them directly on Twitter and all platforms and trigger and gaslight them and bait them and have these racy conversations with them. But to have it with the people that just enjoy music and enjoy hip-hop, enjoy rap, enjoy reggae, soca, drill, UK drill, New York drill, the Atlanta drill scene, or the Atlanta hip-hop culture, like, it's stupid. Like, it's it's an ignorant way to have a conversation, especially about Black culture and it to do with Drake. Drake is mixed, and you cannot take that away from him as much as you try. Yes, he didn't grow up with his dad, but we really don't know the dynamics of that, and people need to stop thinking that they do. We don't know the dynamics of that. We don't know if he had mixed race cousins here in the city that he did interact with occasionally or frequently. We don't know how much of his Black side he got introduced to from his own Jewish side of his family or his mom, right? We don't know. And we know that maybe as he grew up, he indulged in that obviously as he got older, but we don't know when and when he started to do it. Yes, Drake has ties to some serious guys or street guys in Toronto, whether Americans want to believe it or not. I'm not here to debate that. I don't care what you think. But, you know, I know that, you know what I mean? Those guys weren't going to sit down and, you know what? I don't even want to speak on them either. Like, it's because it's pointless. A lot of people in his camps were former rappers in the city or a lot of hip hop influence or rap influence or musical influences in the city. They were tied to a lot of different things. They have a lot of culture and ethnicity, nationality, culture, religion. They have a lot of things tied to them that make them influence Drake and why he is, you know, cross paths with them, also like tied to them, why you see him, why you know who they are. I don't want to like put them on the spot, but like a lot of these people, like they didn't go by these names that they're going by now. And I know that Drake was once a fan of these people, like Preme, he was a fan of Guillotine, he was a fan of them. Those are all on, you see them in Drake's OVO campaigns and music videos. Young Tony, who's now known as OVO, I don't even know what his OVO name is, but Young Tony was a big influential rapper in the city. Obviously, OVO 40, he's made so much music in the city. He's, you know, I know Boy Wonder is not, you know, connected directly like that to Drake like that, but obviously he's worked with him before, or he's friends with him or colleagues with him. You know, Beatz by Murda, you know, not to say that he's directly worked with Beatz by Murda, don't count me on that, but he's worked with a lot of Preme's friends and a lot of Guillotine's friends and Guillotine, and he's worked with a lot of guys that Drake knows. Like, you can't. And then when you guys put that too, you're not counting the producers that come out of the city that, like, are they culture vultures too? Like, is Boy Wonder a culture vulture? Is 40 a culture vulture? I'm only naming my top ones. That there's a skew of Beats by Murder. There's a skew of influential guys that make beats, producers that make beats in the city that are well known even before Drake started his rap career or his acting career. Like, I'm just listing the ones that I listen to on a regular basis, whether I'm a super fan of them or not. So are they culture vulturing too? Like, it doesn't make sense. He's influenced by a lot of things, and you can't just say because of Drake there's no rap scene, or there's no hip-hop scene, or there's no R&B scene. Like, what about Deborah Cox? Like, what about all the famous R&B queens that came out of Canada or Toronto before Drake? Like, what about that music genre, the R&B genre? Like, there's no sound. Like, it makes no sense. And then you're like, oh, you're listing singers and you're listing artists and you're listing songs, and like Partynextdoor. How many people now sound like Partynextdoor? How many people sound like how the Weeknd used to sound, or how the Weeknd sounds now? Like, get out of here. Like, your argument is no validity or validity to it, because we have a lot of influences. We've established ourselves in the game long before you wanted to have this conversation or not. And I'm being honest with you, this conversation is triggering, and that's why I made the video. But also, what are your main basis of points here to say that there's no sound here? Also, another thing that I want to state is you guys had no problem with Kardinal when he first came out and he was signed to Akon and he dropped his 2 biggest bops, and those rotated for, oh god, annoying 3-4 summers. Like, let's be honest, you guys had no problem with him, and he had a crazy Caribbean culture influence sound on his music. He is Jamaican. Like, you didn't have a problem with that. You didn't have a problem opening your arms to him. Like, I don't get it. Like, I don't get it. You have no problems opening your arms to Nav. You have no problems opening your arms to a lot of artists that still portray themselves and be themselves, but also have a different drip or swag or slime or different way of how they conduct their lives. You don't have a problem opening your arms to that. I get it that the Toronto slang is disgusting to you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. The Toronto slang is disgusting, especially when younger kids use it really hard, the hard, raunchy Toronto slang. And I'm smiling because it's funny even to us, like, but what are you gonna do, right? And even when you soften it down, it's still kind of annoying, but that's how we speak. Even white people speak like this, brown people speak like this, Filipino people speak like this, Asian people speak like this, Hispanic, Latino, like a lot of people that are here, native people, like a lot of people speak like this from this city and the outskirts of the city, the GTA, the suburbs, like. And that's another thing, like the TikToker was like, you guys are like suburban and Mississauga. Like, does that hurt your feelings that Mississauga and Brampton have a lot of rich people? Like, what does that have to do with music? Like, what does that have to do with the fact that these people worked hard for their money and live in rich houses? Like, what does the influence of the neighborhood have to do with the music? Like, like, you guys know what I'm trying to say. Like, does that hurt your feelings? Like, it's like Bridal Town, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like Foreign Hill, like, what, like, I don't get it. But, like, we're not all from the suburbs, and we don't live in igloos like you guys used to like to say, or it's cold, or this, or foolishness like that, or these little like, you don't hear that in the music that you listen to from the city. You got a lot of you do listen to younger generation rap artists from this city, like 17 Davy, like, you guys listen to a lot of these guys, and you don't act dumb when you hear them speak. Like, I'm confused why, because they're black, or they're Haitian, or they're this, or they're from Africa, or they came here and they migrate. Like, you don't act dumb in those type of conversations when you come to those artists. So why act dumb when it comes to Drake? Well, like, I don't get it. You don't like him, you don't like him, but you can't say that Toronto doesn't have a sound. You can't say that Toronto doesn't have a culture. And that's another thing. You guys want to say we don't have a culture. Oh, it's a mixed race city, and like, the culture is based off of Jamaicans. Like, if you hear how Punjabs even speak, like, they speak like almost, like, even with the accent, I'm like, dang, like, you really got the patois good. Like, you have it really, really good. So, like, I don't understand, if you're not from here and you haven't even spent 5 years here, much less a full year here, understanding anything, or just living here and enjoying the vibes of the city, and you're like, oh, it's boring. We know it's boring. We know it's boring, and we don't care. We wouldn't want to be anywhere else except for our boring city. So thank you for that. But, like, and you're like, oh, we don't have gangsters, we don't have this, we don't have crime, we don't have, like, I'm not here to debate that delusions in your head. You want to be Delulu, like Jada Kingdom would say, then be Delulu all you want. You know what I mean? Be Delulu all you want. You know what I mean? Be Delulu all you want. But it's that fact that you're trying to throw all these things out there that don't make sense because they're not hitting. They're not even hitting the wall and sticking. It's just hitting the wall and dropping to the floor because it makes no sense for Toronto. It makes no sense for the city. So I want to have discussion in the comment section, like with white people, black people, old, young. You know, I want to have this conversation because it's getting out of hand. Like, I know it's clickbait, and I know it's to gain the algorithm on your side and to get money and to be, you know, trending, to go viral, but you really cannot say Toronto doesn't sound.